And gentlemen, thank you from wherever you are joining me this morning. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Dr. Max Oluba, and this is Lead with Scripture. The focus of this program is to use the concept of leadership, the Bible, and teach the concept of leadership. Is to make people better leaders using the principles from the Bible. Like I said in the past two episodes, that there is no challenge facing you this morning, facing you as an individual, facing you as an organization, facing you as even a family, that you cannot find the solution in the Bible. So the Bible is not just a historical book, the Bible is a comprehensive book on principles. And we've been studying the Bible, using the Bible as the principles for improving our leadership effectiveness. Today, we are continuing the series on leaders as economic catalysts. We've started by saying that the king matters. We looked at the land of Israel and we saw that under the different kings, their economic future, spiritual climate diverged, even though they had the same God and the same covenant. But the king determined a lot of the things that happened. In the days of David, there was righteousness in the land. Uzziah, righteousness in the land. But when Manasseh, Ahab, and the rest of the wicked kings ruled, there was wickedness in the land. So in episode 2, we looked at leaders as spiritual gateways. They opened the door to what happens in the land. And in episode 3, we looked at the economic impact of leadership. And that is where we are. That is where we are this morning. And I'd like to just welcome anybody here. If you are joining me, okay, I see you. Thank you, Daniel. If you are joining me from Facebook, if you are joining me from Twitter, just say hi. So that thank you. I see you, sir, from YouTube. So at least I have one person from the YouTube channel and somebody else from the Facebook channel. So just say hi so that I can just welcome you. Thank you, Pastor Blessing. So let me move on for time's sake, because this is 15 minutes and straight to the point. So the next thing I would like to just walk here. This was what we said yesterday, that Africa, this is United Nations Development. Last week, United Nations Development Program, that Africa is blessed. So the problem of Africa is not the land or the resources. That if it is based on the land and the resources, Africa would be the leading continent in the world. So the problem of Africa is not where we are located. Sometimes we talk about geography. Yes, I understand. I understand the concept of Sahara Desert. But if it is geography alone, then maybe the Dubai, the Emirates, the 7 Emirates, I think, that makes up the United Arab Emirates, none should achieve greatness. Because if you go to Dubai, sometime from July through the months of October, you can tell that it is a very hot land. How they were able to achieve greatness is a function of leadership. If you go to Rwanda also, you see Rwanda as a land of mountains and valleys, and yet they've been able to achieve greatness. And you know what happened with the Rwandan genocide. So it's not even your history. Today we keep blaming in Nigeria the civil war that happened in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. Rwanda's war genocide happened in the 90s, and yet they have moved beyond that. It is not your history. It is not the location of the land. It's not even the resources of the land. It boils down to one thing: leadership. That leadership determines the state of the land. And we looked at two scriptures here: Ecclesiastes 16 and 17. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child. And we said this concept of a child is not the biological age, but the mentality, the attitude, the behaviors of that individual. And he says, this is a child. And he says, woe to you, O land. And today we are going to spend time on blessed are you, O land. So we ended by looking at who is a child. I don't think I need to spend time there. You can actually go back to last week's episode and look at it. Today, I want to just spend the remaining 10 minutes and talk about blessed are you, O land, verse 17, when your king is the son of noble. So with Ecclesiastes 10, 16 and 17. It's just a matter of time. You can predict the outcome of the land. So when we celebrate elections, whether from political affiliations, whether from ethnicity and all that, in Africa, that's what we look. We look at political affiliations, we look at ethnicity and all that, and we vote people into the office. It says, woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, or blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles. So the king determines whether the land is blessed. And can I say this here? It's not God that determines whether the land is blessed or not. From Ecclesiastes 10:16, God has already blessed the land, Africa, with the resources that he has deposited in the land. What happens to resources and whether resources will be used for the people it was meant for, or whether resources will be abused, it's not God that determines that. It's the king that determines that. And when we understand this, we know that our greatest responsibility, yes, is we need to pray for the land, but our greatest responsibility is to make sure that the right people get into office. Let's look at the behavior of the son of a noble in the context here. When Pope and Solomon looked at it, it says, and your prince's feast. Notice what happened here, that in the for the child, they feast in the morning. They wake up and the first thing they think about is, where's the food? The first thing they think about is what is in it for me. The first thing they think about is what the privileges are. And that's what we see today in Africa, that when people are voted into office, they give thanksgiving. They're not giving thanksgiving because they want to serve God through that office. They're giving thanksgiving because they know that this is an escape route from poverty. But it says, blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles, and they feast at the proper time. So the privileges of the office is not what comes to mind. Is the responsibility of that office. They know that the office comes with a sacred responsibility and that they will be held accountable for that office. And so they feast at the proper time. And notice what they feast for. They feast for strength and not for drunkenness. What is drunkenness? Is a lack of self-control. What is drunkenness? Is lack of self-restraint. So I wrote here like 6 or 7 qualities of the son of a noble. And you can ask yourself this morning, do the people we call our leaders, the people who have positional authority, do they exemplify any of this? So I talked about responsibility before privileges. They feast at the proper time. They know that the office has certain responsibility, but they don't, that's not the first thing that comes to their mind. They know that the first thing that comes is for work. The office is for work. That's why it says they feast at the proper time for strength. So that word for strength means that they had worked that morning and now they need to replenish their strength. They only talk about the privileges of the office after they have worked and not before they have worked. And even when they talk about the privileges of the office, they don't abuse it. So the first 3 points here is this with that responsibility of the office. They have a sense of responsibility, a sense of urgency, and they are accountable over the resources of the state. So when you see these 3, you know that yes, there's that sense of discipline. So let me even talk about a sense of urgency. In Africa, Nigeria, a case example, a leader is elected. The leader knows that he has to rule, and it takes 6 months, 9 months, 3 months to even form his cabinet. It means that leader was not prepared from day one, because a leader that was prepared from day one with that sense of urgency to get the right people. Now, it's a different case of the Senate confirming the people, but the people must be ready, because after the election, you have like 2 or 3 months to put together your cabinet before you are even sworn in. And when that leader is taking 6 months before putting his cabinet, it means that leader was only interested in winning an election and not in governance. And we've seen that happen. There's no sense of urgency. People are kidnapped and nothing happens. There is no sense of urgency in dealing with the economic issues of the land. It says, blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles, and they feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. So let me talk about the last three here this morning as I begin to bring this to a close. Something about accountability over resources. And that's where I talked about for strength and not for drunkenness. Now, these are not, which one would I use the word? Somebody will say, but in verse 16, they woe to you all and they also feast. And verse 17, we also see feasting. But notice the word, they feast for strength. So they use the office, the privileges of the office, simply to make sure that they can continue doing the work. So should a leader have a convoy? Yes, in every part of the world, leaders have a convoy. But that's not the first thing. That's not the first thing in their mind. They only use that because the office requires that for their own personal security. But they are using the resources of the state for strength and not for drunkenness. So they don't come into office and the first thing they need to think about is buying a lot of private jets. That is not for strength. How many private jets do you need? Maybe you need one. That's what you need. You don't need a fleet when you of aeroplane in the hangar. No, for strength and not for drunkenness. So they understand where the limit of their authority is. Although I have access to the resources of the state, I know where the limit of my authority is, and therefore they know they are accountable to their people. I don't know this morning, guy. Are you following me this morning? Hello. Okay, so I hope you are following me this morning. So when you see a leader who doesn't have restraint because he has access to the offerings, let's take a pastor has access to the offerings of the church. A governor has access to the offerings of the resources of the state. A president has access to the resources of the nation. But the question you need to ask yourself here is, when they feast, when they use the resources, do they understand the concept of restraint? Or do they use the resources for drunkenness? There's a lack of self-control, self-indulgence, lack of self-restraint, and so they abuse. So we see that. We see today ministers, governors, and if you see the way their children lavish the resources of the state, you wonder, wow. If you see even the way their friends, some of them, use the resources of the state, you wonder, wow. That's somebody who doesn't understand that the resources are meant for strength and not for drunkenness. Well, I have my primary school teacher many years ago on the call. I greet you, ma'am, Mrs. Chukura. Thank you for joining the call. So let me bring this to a close. It says here that these leaders have long-term impact. So they define success by what they leave behind. They define success by what they leave behind. That's what they define success is, by what do they leave behind? What is the impact of their legacy? That's long-term success. So they come into office, they know what the problem of the state, the nation is, and their goal is, I want to leave an impact. Then finally, they have discipline over the sense of entitlement. I have a question here. What's my view on men of God with long convoys? I have answered the question when I talked about that sometimes leaders need security. I understand that. I'm not going to speak here and give you any attack anybody. I understand the president of America has a convoy. I understand that. But when the convoy becomes excessive, then that is drunkenness and not for strength. So that's my answer. I understand the privileges of the office, but when the leader now begins to feast on the privileges and not use the privileges for the growth of that nation, then that is not for strength, but for drunkenness. In every part of the world, leaders have privileges, but the focus is not on the privileges. The focus is not on privileges. The focus is on responsibility. So ask yourself, what's the mindset? Does the leader think more about this is for me? And if you if you extend it one step further, the goal should be to get to the point where you don't need the convoy. That should be the ultimate goal, to get to the point when you don't even need those privileges, because there's really no need for that. It's on that note that I'd like to bring I'd like to bring this to a close, and I hope that you've learned one thing from this particular episode this morning, that the leader determines the state of the land. They determine the state of the land because of their attitude to the office and their attitude to resources. Because where they invest resources, if they invest resources for capital projects, if they use the set policies about developing the state of the land. China, for what you say, you might say China is not a Christian nation, but they are focusing on certain things, the STEM courses and the rest. And today we can see the development that is happening in China. But we come to Africa, and all we do is pray, 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 pray. And we forget that the people who set the policy direction, who uses the resources that God has given to the land, will determine to a large extent whether that land will be developed or not. It's on this note, I want to bring this to a close. Thank you for joining me. Next week, I will be talking about how leadership affects your life personally as an individual. And you will see from the same scripture that the most important factor that determines the quality of your life is the leader that you have above you. I want to say thank you. Do have a great morning. God bless you. As you go into your day, remember, leadership determines the state of the land. My name is Dr. Max Oluba. God bless you.